Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back in War Thunder, having a look at another Battle Pass vehicle which has come in this most recent Battle Pass, and it's the J26 David. Now this one has actually kind of taken me by surprise a little bit. I thought it was going to be a similar BR to the J26, which is more like the P51D, but because this is a P51B, and even though they have the same engine, they do have different capabilities and also a different frame. So overall, this vehicle, the J26, is actually much more like the P51C from the Americans, and the way that it's set up, instead of like the J26, this standard one. So that's actually kind of cool. It means that we're not just getting a standard copy of the J26. Instead, this is different and therefore going to be a different vehicle in its BRs that it's going to sit at. But if you've already ground out, I suppose, the P51C for America, you'll pretty much know how this thing's going to fly because, well, it's basically the same. The B and the C Mustangs are incredibly similar to each other, especially when you have a look at this, the B7 specifically. So this J26 has access to four 50 cal machine guns, or 12.7s, 2 in each of the wings, and also access to the Packard V1657, which is a very good engine for a 3.7 vehicle, has good power behind it, and therefore can move around pretty efficiently. As I was saying, it's exactly the same engine you find on the J26 standard, which is 2 BR brackets higher than it, showing how useful the engine is to go forward with. It does have a lot of rounds for those 50 cals, and one of the big bonuses this gets over its tech tree equivalent is the bombs. It has 2 500s, 2 250s, and 2 100s, whereas the standard J26 only gets little 59 kilogram bombs in the form of the M37As. So in that regard, the J26's David is better, So the J26 David has better CAS opportunities with the bombs, but it also has worse flight characteristics and performance than the standard J26, which is why it's much lower BR. The vehicle should be good though. It's obviously more comparable to something like the J22B nowadays, which it would be interesting to see the flight performance between these two vehicles. But it's another vehicle that, you know, fits in a pretty fun lineup with the Finnish Panzer IV that they added, and then also the T-34, which they also added for Finland, and the Sav, if you have that from before, which is a very fun vehicle to play. And then now you have an extra CAS element on top of the standard J22B, which isn't really a CAS one. It's more of an air superiority vehicle because it doesn't have a ton of penetration on its general rounds. So I would say the David being the free Battle Pass vehicle, because you can get it at level 51 here, it's a little bit boring. Like, you know, how many P51s have we seen in the game? We've seen a million of them, it feels like. But at its general capabilities and the lineup that it can be part of, I think it does actually have a place. You also have the 4.0 lineup as well, the PVKV2 and the PVKV-M43, which it can go into, and maybe even higher. I suppose you've got this box as well, which isn't very good. But the only other things you have is the B18B, right, at 4.0, so you could use it for 2 lineups, which is quite nice. Gives you an additional option on top of what you already have. So for me, from that point of view, that's pretty good. For the vehicle itself, I would say that it's definitely in a lot better position now than it was if it was going to be at 4.3, which is what I thought it was going to be. So for me, it's a lot more positive than it was. The only question is does Sweden need this vehicle? Not really. Like it might have been better to see like another vehicle or another setup for them, you know, something maybe a little bit more unique, or something which is maybe a little bit higher in BR, which represents something different. But is it going to be usable? Yes, of course it is. Is it going to be something which fits in a bunch of lineups? Yes, of course it is. Is it going to be able to grind out the tree in a decent click? Yes, of course it is. And if you don't want this one, then you can always get the Pyramirski from the good old Warbond shop, which is available now. The way I see the J26 is it's a stocking stuffer. It's something which is not the reason why, you know, you go to Christmas and get all the nice presents and everything. It's like the piece of chocolate that your grandma gives you in like the stocking stuff, or you know, the random socks or whatever, the additional things on top of it. And I think the J26 fits that completely fine. One of the problems is it does have the pretty bad, let's call them early war belts for the 12.7s. It only has the API TIIs, and then obviously the standard ground ones and the stealth ones, so it doesn't get the API Ts, basically. Like, the interesting thing as well is the standard J26 doesn't get them either. So that kind of sucks for the vehicle, but everything else about it is pretty decent. Like, you can't be mad at a vehicle like this. Well, I suppose you could be mad if you see it as surplus to requirement, but if you just see it as what it is, as a vehicle, it fits the game very well. It's not going to annoy anybody, it's not going to be overpowered or anything like that, and it's going to aid the people who like to see it and want to see it, you know? And also at the same time, it is historical. So it ticks all the boxes, it's just not that interesting. And I think when it comes to Battle Pass stuff, I think in general that's okay. Like, that's fine. You know, not everything has to be, you know, something which really kind of tickles your fancy at the end of the day. Sometimes you just need stuff which is kind of a filler, and that's what this Battle Pass kind of feels like. It's a bunch of vehicles which are just filling parts of the tech tree, which are probably going to make it a little bit easier for people to grind through. So if it fits that, then that seems good to me. And I know that won't be to everybody's taste, but for mine, it's not too shabby. As always, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Cupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.